Test 1 2 1 2. Hello, good morning. Good morning. Please grab something to eat and have a seat so we can start the town hall. Thank you. Unless you want to go back. That's a question. Just a reminder, there are teens in the teen room to watch the younger children during the town hall. Welcome to all of you. Please grab something to eat and have a seat. There are plenty of sandwiches. Please help yourself. Get seconds. 5-minute warning.
Good morning, everybody. Let's find our seats, please. If you're still hungry, I'm sure there's more sandwiches in the back. I'm going to let Brian do some announcements, and then Father's coming up in just a minute.
Welcome. Oh, let me switch.
I turned you on.
Welcome to the 2026 Town Hall. We really appreciate you all being here this beautiful, moderate, smoky summer day. Please join me in thanking Marwan, Bob Golm, John Welch, and Mark and Sarah for hosting this lovely lunch, and to the many volunteers and their active service for us today. Please welcome, thank you, yeah, one more round of applause, please, for them for the sandwiches. Thank you. Please welcome Father Anthony to lead us in prayer and get us started.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Blessed art thou, O Christ our God, who hast revealed the fishermen as most wise, having sent upon them the Holy Spirit, and through them thou hast fished the universe. O lover of mankind, thine glory to thee. The 2026 Town Hall is officially convened. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Father. I do believe there are a few more sandwiches back there for anyone else that's looking for seconds. There are teens in the teen room and down the hall for all the children, for any of the children that would like to attend. I'll turn it over to Father.
Thank you all for joining us. The town hall was something that was conceived a number of years ago as an informal way for us to present to you the goings on of the parish, to offer some transparency as to our planning for the future, any events, any programming that's coming up. So thank you for joining us. This is a very important endeavor. As I mentioned today in my sermon, a big thing that we're facing in the Orthodox Church today, a big blessing that we have, is this tremendous growth that we're seeing in our parish and throughout the country in Orthodox churches. This growth poses a number of unique challenges. The first of which is space. That's the most immediate challenge that we face with this is we are quickly running into our kind of capacity limit for seating in this parish. Other Orthodox churches in Grand Rapids have already done so. You know, St. George is about to pop, Holy Trinity is about to pop, Holy Cross is moving on to a bigger parish because they also are growing so much. To this end, I just wanted to give a brief update. There was at the request of our vicar, our Archimandrite Jeremy Davis, we have convened a council for missions, the West Michigan Missions Council, and we are currently in the process of looking into options for establishing a new mission in Grand Rapids and the surrounding area. We looked in a couple of options that kind of turned out to be dead ends, but we are currently looking for space to establish a mission here within the city of Grand Rapids and possibly even somewhere north of the city in the northern suburbs. This is we working with the committee. We gathered all the data from all of the Orthodox churches to see where everybody lives. We also looked into where growth is happening in Grand Rapids as a city in general. So we're looking to establish one and possibly two missions, one here in the city, possibly one somewhere in the northern suburbs. We'll have more updates for you as that goes on, and we figure out more concretely what's going to be happening with that. The second thing is the growth within this parish. Some unique challenges which this poses, as it does in any parish, is there are established community members here, and there are huge waves of newcomers coming every few months. You know, every week we see a few new people. It is necessary for us, for the unity and cohesivity of the parish, to promote unity and cohesivity between the members who are born in this community, so-called heritage members, and the so-called newcomers. To that end, in the fall of 2026, we will be moving forward with having a type of mentorship program here in this parish. We're not exactly sure what we're going to call it yet, but what this is going to look like is once one becomes a catechumen, that is to say, once one determines that they would like to make a home in the Orthodox Church and move forward with becoming a member of the Orthodox Church, they will be assigned a mentor, a buddy. We're not exactly sure what we're going to call this yet, but who is just a normal Orthodox Christian who can advise them on how Orthodox Christianity is manifested in a regular person's life, who can give them advice on any questions they have, and will foster kind of community and union between members of the church who have been here for generations and the upcoming generation in the church. Also, with this tremendous growth we're facing here at St. Nicholas specifically, we're finding that the staff is a little bit overwhelmed with just the amount of stuff there is to do, the amount of people there is to interact with, on top of just the normal administrative tasks it takes to run this church. And to that end, even before I got here, the parish council, along with Father Michael Nasser, worked to establish a new administrative structure for our parish, which is very impressive and is kind of going to serve as a model for other parishes in the diocese, God willing, known as a higher partnership. And Keith will speak on that.
You know that during the General Assembly back in January, they mentioned to you about this higher partnership structure. And so we thought it was necessary today just to loop you back in to tell you that the higher partnership is working well. it was interesting that we didn't realize, I don't know how we didn't realize this, but of our executive members of the parish council, 4 of them were leaving the executive role on the parish council, and only 1 was remaining. That was Sarab. So we spent the first part of this new structure from February making sure that Brian, our new parish council chair, was on board with the higher partnership model so that we could implement that as the previous council had laid that out. So with that end, I want you to know that it's going well. We worked out some bugs. We'll continue to work out bugs as we move forward. But if you remember, just big structure-wise, a lot that I did overseeing adult ministries was rolled over to Deacon Justin. So he oversees all ministries in the parish. And we were concerned a little bit, if you remember, that, hey, was he going to be able to handle that with all of his youth ministry responsibilities? The answer is I can report to you that he's handling it very well. I meet with Deacon Justin on a weekly basis for about 2 hours every Tuesday afternoon. We continue to map out where we're going, not only in youth ministry, but also with adult ministries. He's given a lot of strong marching orders about how to make sure he's connecting with ministry leaders, again, to carry out the mission of the parish. And he's doing a phenomenal job with that. That frees me up to partner more with the parish council and a lot of the day-to-day activities of the parish administratively, doing more director of operations type things here at the parish. So the model's working well. We just wanted to make sure today you got a little feedback on that and that you would realize that that is working well. Any questions on that? Excellent.
So the next topic on the agenda, as many of you may have seen in your emails a month or 2 ago, there was an email survey about the feasibility of putting on a festival here at St. Nicholas. I'll just give you a little bit of background on this. When I first got here last August, and we had our dinner in October, there were a number of individuals after the dinner and in the process of preparing for the dinner who said, hey, how come, Holy Trinity or, St. Mary's in Livonia, they do a big festival and we don't do something like that? And I said, well, because they've never done something like that. Festivals have to be approached, in my opinion, with a little bit of caution because it can be something that's very, very healthy and unitive for the parish in the sense that just in the same way that the Middle Eastern dinner brings people together to work shoulder to shoulder and to socialize and to get to know each other, so does a festival. It can. If people are working together towards a common task, it can also unify these kind of maybe slightly disconnected communities between the heritage members and the newcomers. It's a way for everybody to engage with each other towards a common task. The flip side of that is that festivals, if done the wrong way, can be disunitive in the sense that if it becomes a territorial thing or becomes divisive in any way, it's not worth putting on. So we put together this committee, the Festival Feasibility Committee, to discern whether or not something like this would even be hypothetically a possibility here at St. Nicholas. There were a number of challenges that we wanted to address. One was the financial strain that a festival could put on the parish, whether or not it was going to be financially profitable, whether or not we had the staffing to do something like this, whether or not we had the logistics here on property to put this on as far as parking and enough space for all the booths and everything like that. So this is what this committee, and finally, and most importantly, whether or not the parishioners here felt that it would be a worthwhile endeavor. And to that end, we put together the Festival Feasibility Committee, which was very diligently headed by Joanne Abraham. Unfortunately, she could not be here with us today, but I just wanted to give her my thanks, Joanne Abraham and the Festival Feasibility Committee, for their hard work that they put in for this process. We talked with, just to give you some updates on this, we talked with the folks over at Holy Trinity about their festival, what it takes to put on their festival. And some of their members came here and we met with them and they said, everything looks good. They gave us some creative solutions like the parking, like, we have Gymco on one side and we have, the medical facility on the other side, which we oftentimes let them use our parking. And we said, they would allow us to use their parking lot for such an event should it come to pass. We definitely have the manpower. Holy Trinity told us for their festival, which is kind of a mid-sized festival, they have about 200 shifts for volunteers, which is slightly more, not substantially more, but very slightly more than we use for the Middle Eastern dinner, which is successful. And actually, we have a plethora, we have a surplus of volunteers who come to help for the Middle Eastern dinner. We took this survey to see what the opinions of the broader community are. I would say they were generally favorable. There were some concerns. I would say the most common concern that people had was we have a lot of things going on here at St. Nicholas. There's already a lot of programming. We're in the midst of launching, as we will, I don't want to, give it up, but, we'll be launching a capital campaign, in which we'll discuss shortly. There's iconography projects going on. We have this new property purchase that we're doing. Can we feasibly have this other thing on our plate? It's a very legitimate concern. All that being said, we were, for the year 2026, 2027, we have decided not to pursue the festival at this time. It is definitely very much a possibility for the future. I think it's something we can do. I think it's something that could be healthy for the community. But at this point, we will not be moving forward for 2026, 2027. Again, that does not mean never. That means that there's a possibility that at some point in the future, we may reapproach this topic. That being said, we discussed how this fits in with the Middle Eastern dinner. And for the Middle Eastern dinner, which is a very beautiful event for our community, is a very unitive event, how could we kind of beef it up a little bit to kind of see how having some festival adjacent events would work in the dinner? I will not speak any more on that, but I think Janet and Carol will come up to present on the Middle Eastern dinner. They're here.
I don't like microphones. Good afternoon. Today is the official kickoff of the Middle Eastern dinner. That means from now through mid-October, you'll hear weekly communications about the dinner. I'm Janet and Sarah, and this is Carol David, and we are your co-chairs this year. The Middle Eastern dinner is a long-standing St. Nicholas tradition. Our heritage families have spanned 3 generations, serving in many capacities over the years. How many of you have volunteered at the dinner in the past? Raise your hand. Great. For anyone who didn't raise your hand, this is your year. Woo!
For those who are new to St. Nicholas, our dinner is held each October and is one of the highlights of our year. Its purpose is to support the ministries of our church and to gather in fellowship as we serve our community. 2 of the earliest ways we can begin preparing for our dinner are by baking and by selling tickets. Volunteering in preparation for the dinner and the night of the dinner is how we gather in fellowship to serve our community. There are many ways you can serve, from helping on any of the baking days, selling tickets, and volunteering on the night of the dinner. Our guests who dine in have the opportunity to see our beautiful church, and our clergy volunteer for sharing the faith and answering questions.
Financially supporting our general fund means selling tickets to family, friends, coworkers, and of course, yourself. One of our goals this year is to have all dinner expenses, which approximately is $10,000, donated before the night of the dinner. We have streamlined the donation process from how it has been done in the past, and it's easier than ever. All you'll need is a QR code and a dollar amount. So, as Father Michael has always taught us, let's try it. Grab your phone. Go to St. Nicholas website, stnicholasgr.com. Everybody there? Oh, sorry. stnicholasgr.com. Click give in the top right-hand corner. And you can Venmo your donations.
You can also
What?
you can also Venmo.
Yes, you can also Venmo. I'm sorry, there was another question about that. Yeah, lots of zeros, please. Minimum of 3. No, I'm sorry. Not minimum of 3, minimum of 4, 5, you know. Thank you for helping underwrite the dinner.
You may be thinking to yourself, I wonder if there's anything new this year. The answer to that question is yes. We will be adding a marketplace, which will include our baked goods, the bookstore, and we hope to secure some outside vendors to sell oils, spices, wines, and other merchandise. We will also be adding a bar for our dining guests to purchase beer and wine. A newer tradition that everyone can take part in as we communicate about the dinner is to ask one of us or anyone on the committee, how can I help? This won't be the last time you're asked to remember this phrase. We will be looking for a chairperson for the bar as well as many other positions, some new and some old. If you have any questions today, please stop by our table after the meeting.
Which is right back there. We also have the baking day cards available for you. So in closing, as faithful Orthodox Christians, we know this to be true. Above all, as children of our Heavenly Father, we recognize that all our work is for the glory and honor of God. Thank you very much.
I would like to just say, my family and I entered into this parish about 21 years ago. And when we first came here, this is foreign to all of us. We didn't understand the traditions. We didn't understand what we were getting into. But I can't say it enough when I say, when I joined and I entered into that kitchen, Mark took me under his wing and said, this is it. This is when we need to actually throw down. And it was a blessing. It was the first time I said, okay, this is how we're going to serve. And you just jump right in. We would love to have all of you. So anyone and everyone that's willing to help, we would absolutely love to have you at the Mediterranean dinner helping. It is beautiful to see. And if you do come and help, please, and if you're new to it, please take a moment to just stop, walk the parking lot. Everyone's got a place. Each and every one of us has a place where we're there to serve and help out. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing to see when so many people come together. So I just wanted to share that with you.
So the next item on the agenda is just a brief update on iconography plans, which a number of people have requested. As you know, we have a lot of space here at St. Nicholas. There's a lot of space we could iconograph. The next phase of the iconography project here is to complete the iconography in the exo-narthex. That's that long wall that abuts the narthex where you light your candles before you come into church. And then the vestibule, which is that tall room by the front door when you first enter the church. So our hope is, so generally speaking, funds raised for iconography have historically been generated via memorial donations. When people pass away, if they leave some money to the church or money that's collected via a mercy meal or something, is held in an account and is used for various liturgical items or things like this that the church needs. There were plans in place before I arrived here already to iconograph that vestibule room that I mentioned with the creation narrative, the 6 days of creation. We, I believe, have just about enough money to complete this project at this point. So as I mentioned, this next phase will include that room and that long wall immediately inside from there. We will be moving forward with the vestibule iconography prior to that because It is less expensive. We already have the funds generated for that, and we will be moving forward with that hopefully next year. That's all I have on iconography. Before we get to the capital campaign, does anybody have any questions on that or on anything else that we've discussed up till this point?
I'd be happy to run the mic to anyone who has questions.
Okay.
I was just curious if there's any discussion at any point doing any stained glass iconography in the church itself. I know that we have it in the chapel, but that's one thing that I see glaring as I sit in every Sunday.
Yeah, it's a good question. At this point, we have not discussed any iconography in the main church. That will kind of be the last phase of the iconography project. If we do anything in the main church, it will come after we complete those other spaces that I mentioned.
Any other questions? So I'm going to ask that the parish council members assist me up here, and those that are part of the capital campaign, if you wouldn't mind standing as well. Joe, David, would you please join us as well? So as they walk up here, before we begin, I want to recognize that this moment has been several years in the making. When the parish voted to purchase the property and home, we did so with faith in the continued growth of St. Nicholas and with the understanding that a capital campaign would eventually be necessary. If you haven't taken the opportunity yet, there's a booklet that is on each and every one of your tables. And we've also sent out we've sent it electronically, and we were able to make it as a flip book as well. So if you have your phones and you're able to see your email, you should see it in there already. God has truly blessed this parish with significant growth, and many people have helped carry this effort forward along the way. To each of you who continued your time, insight, and support, you know who you are, and we are sincerely grateful. I especially want to thank Dan Abraham for taking hold of this effort and helping move it forward. Teresa at Advantage Commercial Real Estate for the beautiful layout in front of you. Thank you, Mark. The staff at Optify Systems, Jerry Watson and Chris Upson for their work on the booklet, along with the committee. Who've come together at a critical time to help bring us to this point. I do want to reiterate, this is 2 years in the making. What matters now is that we move forward with one voice, one purpose, and one commitment to the future of St. Nicholas. Today is not about introducing an idea, it's about aligning on a decision. St. Nicholas continues to grow, and with that growth comes both opportunity and responsibility. We have defined the need, we have defined a plan, and we have defined a window to act. This campaign is how we move forward deliberately, responsibly, and together. Today, you will hear what the need is, what the plan is, how the parish will participate, as well as an invitation for each of us to collaborate. This is an important moment for our parish, and together we take the next step forward. Because of your faithful support, I'm pleased to share we are financially in a good place. I really want to emphasize that your faithful giving of your tithe and offerings has allowed us to continue to support the ministries of the parish. Our treasurer, Sarab, and our assistant treasurer, Amy, they're currently out of town. So please use the parish council email that you can find in the weekly bulletin for any questions that you might have financially. I will now invite Father Anthony to speak.
So again, as I've mentioned before, and just to reiterate what Brian has said, this parish is experiencing tremendous growth. And the growth that we already have, nobody could have imagined would be the case. Perhaps if you came to this parish 50 or 60 years ago, The congregation might have been less than a third of the size here. And when they built this facility, there was much controversy about whether or not they should build something this large. And the fact of the matter is, the ministry that we are able to do today is only because of that very wise foresight that they had. If you build it, they will come. Amen. It is our turn now, fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to say it, to financially support the mission of this church. It is a great blessing for us to continue the work that was set out by our forefathers and foremothers who had the foresight to build this facility so many years ago. Every aspect of the capital campaign will be for the edification of the existing properties and structures and ministries that already happen, and towards expanding the facilities to expand our capacity for ministry and for God's work here in this world. To that end, Jake Reinvelt will be giving us some more specific details about the amount of money that we need to raise, the stages that we will be working through, and a brief overview of the projects that we will be pursuing. Thank you, Jake.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jacob Reinvelt. I'm a member of the Parish Council, and I'm the official liaison to this capital campaign in the efforts to try to kickstart this. If you look at the booklets that are sitting in front of you, you'll see kind of a detailed breakdown of all the different projects and different phases of this campaign on pages 4 and 5. While I address everybody in the room today, as I am a 33-year-old, have also been tasked with directing this towards a specific demographic of this church. So if you guys would please oblige, please raise your hand if you're under the age of 45. Right. So as we talk about this campaign, the understanding is that it's going to take all of us, all of our participation to help meet the goals that we have sitting in front of us here in this booklet. You can see the phases that we have. The first phase is strengthening our foundation. The goal of this phase 1 is to complete existing commitments, financial obligations, which we'll talk about here in a second, and securing property for future growth. Phase 2 is worship and community, strengthening how the parish gathers, teaches, and serves, continued growth. And phase 3 is beyond that, kind of some of the longer term pieces of this campaign, protecting and preparing the parish for long-term stability and expansion. One thing that you'll notice very specifically on this book on page 4, we do have a total goal of $3 million, and that seems very lofty, but it is something that we've done in the past as a parish. We've been able to meet these very lofty goals, paying off big mortgages and covering big expenses, and something that we will do again. But in particular, you will see right underneath that is a coming up need, and it is a need of $240,000. All the other phases begin next year and beyond. This is a need that we have to meet the obligation that we all, or a majority of us anyway, in this same room a couple of years ago voted, saying that we wanted to purchase this land that's adjacent to our property. And that was in 2 phases, and we're at the point now where we have to meet that obligation. And there's a reality that, hey, we need to make a down payment on a mortgage to be able to secure that property. So beyond that, you can see on page 5, there's a whole list of things that we are aiming towards this capital campaign. I remember when we all did vote on purchasing this land, a lot of us were talking about all the awesome ideas of what we could use this land for. And when I say under the age of 45 is who I'm targeting, I truly mean everyone under the age of 45. I think of my niece and nephews who, are running around. Owen, you're doing a great job not running around. Good job. But their generation, I even think of my own son who is going to be born here in a few weeks, and how we want this parish to continue to grow so that we can have the facilities and have all of these outlandish and great ideas that we can, provide for them in the future growth of this church. So with this, you may ask, well, how do we define the success of this campaign? I'm sorry if I'm going a little long. I talk a little bit too much. Roger knows this. When I talk a little bit much when I'm nervous. So, thank you. So, how do we define success of this campaign? Of course, there's the reality of, hey, we need to raise the funds, and we've set a goal of $3 million. But what I would say is the success of this campaign is broad participation. We have in our church, and it's the same in a lot of industries, something called the 80-20 rule. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of this before, where 20% provides 80%, whether it be of funding, of covering certain expenses, whatever it is. It can apply in a lot of different areas. But our goal, I would say, to this generation under the age of 45 is we want to break that stigma. We all want to be able to participate so that we can feel that we are participating in the growth and the future of this church. A lot of us have heard, much to our chagrin, people saying in the generations above us that we spend too much money on Starbucks. We're the avocado toast generation, almost as if we just are frivolously spending money. But I believe the reality is we are a generation that's tasked with some really high expenses, high inflation rates, and I'm acutely aware with all of this. And so many of us fear, the rent that we have to pay and the fear that we may not ever be able to buy a home. But I would challenge that to say that we all, as members of this church, we have a home. This church is our home, and we have an obligation as the members of this church to be good stewards of this home. So we understand that this capital campaign is not going to be matching dollar for dollar those of our generation with those that have had time to save, that have had familial wealth that they're able to contribute towards this. But as I said, I believe that the success of this campaign is that we all participate. And whatever it is, you can see the pledge cards inside of these booklets. We ask you to give it some good thought. Kind of sit down, do some budgeting, think what it is that you guys can over these next few years contribute to this. And our church will be extremely grateful for it. Thank you all for the time.
Thank you, Jake. We're going to open this up for a Q&A. So we're going to spend the next 8 to 10 minutes for, we'll walk around with the microphones. So if there are questions that you have, we'll go ahead and walk around.
Please, as I come around with a microphone, make sure you raise your hand. Questions, okay? We don't want to go back to the past, so we want questions for the present. That would be helpful, okay?
So the only question that I have right now is, you mentioned, Jake, that $240,000 is needed this year to 2026. And you mentioned that you need a down payment for the property. Is that 240,000 the down payment, or is just a portion of that?
So if you remember when we decided to buy the property, it was $1.2 million. First parcel was a 400,000. The second phase was 800,000. So we purchased the first parcel. It's already the second parcel on the 800,000. So we're roughly between 200 and 240,000. Will be after meeting with the bank, and a couple of the banks we're shopping right now. That's probably the range. 200 to 240,000 is going to be the need for the down payment on the 800,000 needed to secure the mortgage, unless we get 800,000 in the next 10 minutes, and we'll pay cash for it.
Amen.
Father, you mentioned about new missions in the area, mission churches. Does the capital campaign contemplate funding those missions?
So at this point, no. When missions start, they don't require a ton of funding. It's usually borrowing a space temporarily until you develop enough cohesivity to do so. But certainly, if a mission were to coalesce and grow enough to the point where it would become an official church, the Missions Council of West Michigan would have to do some discussion as to how we fund that, how we help assist to fund that. But at this time, as there is not yet a mission, there's no discussion of funding said mission. Roger.
Father, as opposed to the mission,
has there given any thought, like in other parishes around the country, to where, given the growth, given our capacity here, that we would do something like Oklahoma City, where they have multiple liturgies and they do things so that they can accommodate this large influx of people that come to Orthodoxy, as opposed to doing a mission? Does it make sense at all for us to say, how do we expand what we offer, given even our limited capacity, so that we're not trying to do a mission? Because I know it's very difficult, and we've got thriving parishes here in the Grand Rapids area. So to me, given what I know, have we thought about that to be able to say, hey, why are we doing this? Why are we taking people away from these communities that are strong and vibrant and can welcome people and can support this new Orthodox influx? Why aren't we doing, have we looked into being able to do that?
Great question.
It's a good question. So this would be parish by parish, obviously. As far as St. Nicholas goes, thankfully, again, we built a lot of space when they did build this parish. We are not yet at capacity. We have that as a possible discussion in the works. But ultimately, I think I am confident, and I think many people are confident, that whatever happens, Orthodoxy in West Michigan is going to continue to grow. You know, it is demonstrably the only denomination of Christianity that is not in decline, but in fact the opposite.
With our existing parishes. So I mean, I would just because I've seen what's happened around the country, we just want to make sure that we don't cannibalize what we're doing here and weaken us here by people leaving and going to the missions doing these things. I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
Right.
But I'm saying that before we really consider saying, hey, we're going to establish a mission, let's make sure that we've done everything here in creating any additional capacity, not necessarily building, more facility to accommodate.
It's a good question. I mean, I grew up at St. George in Cicero as a young child, and I was a South Side Chicago. I'm from the South Side of Chicago, and it took us 50 minutes to get to church as a child. When I was about 6 or 7 years old, there was a lot of discussion about starting a new mission, which would become St. Mary's in Palos Heights. And the same question came up: is this going to divide our community? Is this going to take people away from the existing parish, whatever it is? And there was a lot of feet dragging over this question. It didn't happen for years because of this concern. They opened the church, and St. Mary's, more or less in the course of a year, had 200 people coming to it. And these were not people that left from St. George to go to St. Mary's. These were people who, well, there's limited Orthodox churches I can go to. I don't want to drive 45 minutes to get to church. There's a lot of people who would go to church and fill a church already in Grand Rapids, forgetting about even the newcomers or the converts that are coming. There are a lot of people who I think would engage better in church if there were a mission. But ultimately, this is not a St. Nicholas initiative, right? This is a cooperative thing, and it's at the behest of Father Jeremy that we're pursuing this. I mean, again, nothing has happened thus far, but we'll see what happens through our discussions. Any other questions? Any other questions on the capital campaign?
Father, they're making this so easy for us.
Yes.
Leo, I'm coming up. One moment. And then I'll get yours too, okay?
So do we, you mentioned about the iconography. Do we have we chosen an iconographer? And so I don't know who would be doing it in it, because there's a little, I don't know how to say this, but is it an established iconographer that's going to be like cohesive to the tradition we have here, or is it something new? Can you speak a little bit about that?
It's a good question. Yeah, so as you know, the iconographer who completed the nave of the church has since passed away. So when they decided they wanted to iconograph the narthex, they chose a different iconographer who had a very different style. So we're now in the position where we have two quite disparate styles of iconography between the nave and the narthex. So what do we do with that? Do we continue with the style that's already in the narthex? Do we try to match something that's in the nave? Do we try to find something in between? And to that end, I
we found an iconographer who is very good at imitating styles, and he says he's fairly confident that he could create something which synthesizes both of the styles in doing so. Yes, Keith. Oh, no.
I have a question. I wanted to ask, and maybe you have discussed this at your meetings, but has a fund been established or set aside for when people pass, they reach a certain age, that they would like not only so much money for their children when they pass, but also to leave money for their church?
Certainly. Brian, do you want to answer this, or do you want me to?
Mhm.
You want to answer this? Okay. Yes, it's a very good question. And certainly, if you look at the last line item in these phases for the capital campaign, it is the establishment of an endowment. Any monies that are collected over and above the $3 million goal of the capital campaign will be dedicated to seeding the endowment fund, which is exactly what you're describing, is an invested fund which generates money for the financial stability of the parish, and would certainly entail collecting estates, wills, bequeathments, whatever it may be, from our parishioners. Yes.
So I asked Father about where he came from and what he was doing and how he was funded, because I was curious. I said, you know, from where you were at, there was, yeah, multiple priests at where you were at, and he said all of the funding that paid for me came from the endowment that they had at their own church. He said the money is working for it. So I thought that was beautiful to hear. So anything and everything that we raise that's beyond the $3 million is going to go into an endowment. We have not set the structure of that yet. So we do have some work to do in that, or I guess another foundation endowment. So where the money will actually work for itself. So that is absolutely the goal of this parish. I know that Danny will speak briefly to that as well when he stands. Any other questions?
Yes, the question for Father about iconography. When we started the church, I was on the committee for picking up the iconographer. I went with Mr. Abraham and his family, and we went to many churches to check on iconography. And we cannot just pick up just anybody and go. This is very important to match the inside of the church. For us, it was important time. We spent months doing that. And for the next phase, we should not just go lightly. You know, we should really check who's going to do the job. And see the style of the churches they work for, because that's what we did. We visited Canada, we visited many other churches, visited Detroit area. So I cannot just say, okay, it looks like be good. It's not that way. We have to go and see what they did before and after, and what they could do for us, and if we have to approve it.
100%. Yeah, I mean, but as we can see, I mean, as many people have observed, you know, the previous iconographer who did the second phase of iconography, I mean, it is quite a distinct style from what is in the name.
Yeah.
Right?
No, we're
It's
not.
totally.
If it was my choice, it would not be that look.
So that's what I'm saying, because I've heard a number of concerns from the parishioners about the possibility of continuing with that iconographer. Like, it is a substantial number of voices. It is lovely iconography. It is beautiful, but it is qualitatively quite different from what is in the nave. So the question is, can we find an artist to synthesize these two styles? And that was certainly the primary kind of guiding factor in finding another artist.
No, for the outside, for what you're thinking to do outside the nave, you know, an entrance, we should match the church. And somehow there is people. Yeah, that was his plan. Okay, there is some iconographer could do that job.
Are there other questions for the capital campaign?
I'm coming over to you. One moment.
I just want to make sure I haven't missed anything, and maybe this is a question for the future, but with the purchase completion of the property and the house, the structure, as well as the land and so on, have we designated, or are we going to be deciding, voting as a parish on the future of that property, the future use of it? And is that, I know the purchase of that property is included in that 240,000 that you represented, but in that 3 million, is there something designated beyond that 240 that's going to go toward that land? Is this something that we're not deciding in the nearest future? I'm just curious about what we are thinking for that land.
Yeah, Jake, do you want to speak to that, or Mark?
The ultimate goal when we voted last year to purchase the property was to expand our services and ministries. And as you see when you come here and help volunteer through the week, we're at capacity over there for our Sunday school and our classrooms and events. The immediate goal is to spend some of that money also to freshen up with some lipstick and some love the property next door. And the ultimate goal sooner than later is to get our clerical staff out of here and possibly the priests out of here. Utilize that facility so we can expand what we do here on a weekly and on a Sunday basis for our youth. That's the key. So we will be using some of that funds and other funds to be able to freshen it up, clean it up, make it useful for us, for our parish ministries and clergy and staff. No, we're using the exact same structure. We're just going to kind of tweak it, fix it. Keith was there this week or last week, talked about how we can get things over there in an efficient and timely manner to be able to start figuring out what we want to do here for ministries. So we're not going to be tearing anything down. We're using the structure. We're going to clean the grounds up. We may paint inside and outside and do some other work there. It's usable condition. It's not by any means a tear down. It's usable condition property.
How old? I don't know if I remember how old that building.
I think it's 30 plus years old.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Yep. Pardon me, Mimi? We're going to bring our clerical staff there. And we're going to bring possibly the priests there, and we're going to expand where their offices are and to be able to expand our ministries. Sunday school, etc., youth services, adult ministries. Thank you.
So I've been asked in the past, when we get to capacity, because you know we will, has there been talk or thought given to doing multiple services on a Sunday? Or
Yeah, that's what Ron.
okay, I didn't catch. Sorry.
It's on discussion. We haven't decided.
Asking Father, or am I asking? You know what would be helpful is, I know you have the pledge cards, but one of the things that all of us need is a jumping off point. So some folks maybe are not able to understand 6-figure donations, 5-figure donations. One of the things that I would ask of the committee is that you guys give us a jumping off point so that there's unity within the parish. So this is another major factor when we're doing capital campaigns, what we've seen around the archdiocese, is that, and again, we don't have that problem here in St. Nicholas and Grand Rapids. But what I would ask is, what do you need from us? Do you need us to increase our donations by 10%, by 5% in an ideal world? Give us what that number is so that people can actually put pencil to paper and figure out, I can do that. And I can do that for maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years. When you come to a lot of parishes and you throw out these $3 million, you throw out $240,000, some people are not going to be able to fathom that and say, that's just way over my head. I can't do that. I can't even put my mind around it. If you can break it down in smaller chunks for us, so that the other part of this too, and I will strongly suggest this to St. Nicholas, and we don't have this problem, but you can get this problem, to where we have a couple handfuls that are giving the donations, and now all of a sudden we've got a unity problem within the parish. Father, you probably are familiar with some places that we have this issue with, and it's not good, and it's very divisive. And we have parishes around the archdiocese that are in trouble because of this small little thing. So the only thing I would ask and suggest is if you come to us and say, we need everybody to try to give 10% more. And we can all put pencil to paper on what we give already to try to get some of these goals. It's a little bit measurable for us. It's a little bit easier for all of us then to participate as a collective parish with unity together, regardless of what the dollar amount is. That's just a suggestion.
Other questions? Raise it high if you do. Brian, go ahead and continue then.
So I'm going to ask Danny to come up.
Christ is in our midst. I can say that with extreme confidence because this is the first time in 50 years of my public speaking that I can see over the podium. I want to share a brief story which most of you are familiar with. In March of 2021, COVID encompassed my entire being. Yeah. My mind, my body, my soul, my emotion, and my vocal cords. I came within 4 hours of my death. The pain was excruciating. I never expected to experience such a moment, and I also almost gave up. However, the Lord chose that I should live, but did not offer me a free ride. He required that I should dedicate my remaining years to Him. Our parish is about to embark on a major spiritual challenge. Each of us must be willing to meet Christ halfway. He will grace us with empowerment, necessary sacrifice, willingness to do what many may think is impossible, and strength of mind, body, and soul as He strengthened me. Life whispers in our souls and speaks to our hearts. Sometimes, when we don't listen, it throws a brick at us. It is our choice: listen to the whisper or wait for the brick. The Lord is whispering us today to all of us. From generation to generation describes who we are, our responsibilities to those that follow, and how we will accomplish God's will for St. Nicholas. Faith is what will give us the strength to achieve our goals. God only listens to those who have faith. The key to giving freely will be found in the gift of faith from God, in fully trusting Him as we give. St. Paul calls our attention to the fact that God is able to provide us with every blessing in abundance, so that we may always have enough of everything and may provide in abundance for every good work. We can give and never look back in regret. A recent song verse says, "Don't worry, be happy." None of you remember that's 40 years old. Orthodoxy roots practical church work in stewardship. Whatever we have belongs to God. We are servants of His blessings. St. Nicholas has been blessed with much. Those who came before us sacrificed for our benefit. Now is our opportunity and responsibility to do likewise for those who follow. A steward manages another's property or resources. So Christians manage God's gifts rather than their own possessions. This extends to the church structure, liturgical items, money, and human relations, all be offered back to God in thanksgiving. The physical temple is seen as a sacramental space that participates in the sanctification of creation. So keeping it safe, beautiful, and orderly reflects Orthodox conviction that theology must become the right practice. Maintaining the church is therefore a concrete way the parish shows it cares as a whole and lives as a culture of love, unity, and gratitude in the body of Christ. What does the future hold for St. Nicholas Parish in Grand Rapids, Michigan? What will the parish look like in 10 to 15 years? What happens if we outgrow our church? A good thing. Most importantly, who will benefit in the future from our sacrifice now? What has evolved from a short-term capital campaign became a need for a master plan that ensures St. Nicholas will be viable and financially secure as we grow, expand, and become a more important institution in Grand Rapids, ready, willing, and able to serve the less fortunate in our community. When we care for the poor from our heart, we who care are transformed. When we care for one another from our heart, we who care are transformed. What happens if we literally outgrow our temple? How would we expand? Would we, for example, remake our cultural center into classrooms so we could expand the church walls? Does this open the possibility of building a cultural center on the recently acquired property or even behind us? How do we best serve our neighborhood? Do we build a youth center along our cultural building? These are just examples to help us better comprehend the endless opportunities. What we do and how we do it is for the parish at large to decide. And I ask that once a decision is made, we all must put aside our own biases and hear the call of our Lord to be good stewards. From generation to generation will require the discipline of endurance. The master plan can be implemented successfully in 4 stages, with each successive stage dependent on the stage completing of the previous one. That is, we don't move to stage 2 until stage 1 is completed. What are they? Stage 1 is the maintenance improvement that you heard from Jake, plus principal and interest. So the goal is to raise the necessary capital to complete the proposed facility maintenance and improvements along with the principal and interest for the purchase of the additional property. Someone asked about what do we need to contribute, and we're going to have a 3 to 5 year timeline that I'm hoping to have completed by the September 1. Once stage 1 is completed, we will purchase the remaining parcel. Stage 3 is church expansion, evaluation, and implementation. And then stage 4, develop the newly purchased parcels. So what is our immediate challenge? There are 3 critical components to successfully move forward. As I said, create a 3 to 5 year plan to generate the necessary financial resources to complete this stage. And I'd like to have this done by September 1. Generate $240,000 by December 1. And create an ask committee to solicit donor commitments and work with the parish council to establish fundraising projects. Roger, did you hear that? Ask committee. We want every member to participate either with their financial resources, personal resources, or both. Every member of our parish will be invited to contribute time, talent, and resources. Stages 2 to 4 will start when stage 1 is completed. There are 3 theological reasons for good maintenance: safety of the faithful, aesthetic reverence that inspires awe before God, and preservation of the community's spiritual heritage for future generations. Where you put your money is where your heart lies. Your children notice and follow. Jesus said, "Where your treasure is, there will be your heart also." Matthew 6:21 and Luke 12:34. As you heard previously, St. Nicholas is blessed with many who seek our faith and want to learn to worship with us. God is challenging us. Do we meet the challenge, including expansion of our facilities, or do we hold back in fear? Let us turn ourselves to God, and He will lead us down the path that we should go. However, He expects us to meet Him halfway. My peers and I have benefited from the sacrifice of our parents. I recall many of those who preceded us insist we build for the future, and we did so at the time as we envisioned our future. These people gave generously for the physical building and then gave again for our icons. Not for them, but for us here today. I remember starting church school in a church that was small, very small. Yes, the one in the brochure, if you looked. Our parish continued to grow. We relocated to Boston Street. We outgrew this facility and moved to our current facility. Growth has and continues to lead us to greater accomplishments for the glory of God. He has rewarded us well for our stewardship and service. John Chrysostom said, "God put the wealthy on this earth to serve the poor. He put the poor on the earth to save the wealthy." We all know the story of the poor widow who gave from her poverty and how God honored her. However, there's another message. It is not how much we give, but how much we keep for ourselves. Christ loves a cheerful giver. From generation to generation speaks to what lies in our future. It is time for each of us to search our mind and soul to decide what commitment each of us will make. And in closing, I offer this. What you are is God's gift to you. What you do with it is your gift to God. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. I would like to thank Father Anthony, Brian, Joe, Keith, and Jake for stepping up while I was working through my health issues during the last few months. So thank you very much, all.
Thank you, Dan. And thank you, everyone else, for joining us today. As aforementioned, you have in your book a pledge card. We ask that you take this home with you. Looks like this. If you're not taking a book home, you prefer just the electronic copy, there's a stack of these in the back. And thoughtfully reflect on what you and your family can offer as a pledge over the course of the next coming years. And as we have said before a few times, the most pressing need is the down payment to acquire that new piece of property which abuts our driveway with the house on it. We need $240,000 for that down payment at least before the close of the year, maybe even before November. If you would like to make a donation today to go towards the purchase of that property, please see Brian or Jake. If you want to give $1, if you want to give $100,000, whatever you want to give. If you can write a check today, if you are in a position to do so, Brian and Jake will be collecting those towards the down payment of the new property.
We have these boxes that were created. Thank you, Jerry and Keith. They'll also be in the greater narthex, so donations can go right into there. That concludes the town hall.
Hello. Oh, just one second. Kind of like how Roger was alluding to. If everyone just like went home and like turned the dial up 10%, is that something that ends up going directly to the capital campaign, the 240,000?
So the capital campaign, we have to stress this, that it is a separate form of stewardship than your pledge. So when you give your pledge, you pledge in the normal way. But if you're giving a donation to capital campaign, any check or any other cash you give in an envelope must stipulate that it's going towards the capital campaign. Okay, so we're not going to, by default, put the monies that are given to the church for your pledge are for the operations of the church. If you would like to make a donation specifically to the capital campaign, you must specify that with that donation. Okay, any other final questions?
Let's stand for prayer, please.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, God is with us, His grace and love for mankind, always, now, and ever, to the ages of ages.
God bless you. Thanks for being here.